Ayo, artists and musicians.
Who, us?
Yeah, do you want your own vinyl records?
Yeah, but I can't order 1,000 of them. Or wait like a year to get them. Yeah, we're going on tour in 2 months.
Check out our friends lathecuts.com. They'll make you vinyl singles in quantities as small as 50 copies and as quickly as 3 or 4 weeks.
Get out of here.
You heard me right. All their pricing is a la carte, and they can help you pick a package that fits your budget.
Okay, who we talk to about this?
You need to email my buddy Mike. His address is lathecuts@yahoo.com. And if you mention low profile, you'll get a 10% overrun on your order.
So if I order 50 records?
Mike's gonna send you 55.
If I order 75, I guess you would get 82.5?
Something like that. Remember, you gotta mention low profile to get that deal, and it won't be around forever.
What was the address again?
That's lathecuts@yahoo.com. Custom-made records in small quantities. Mention low profile to get a 10% overrun on your order.
And emailing now.
Yeah, sing a little song. People could go by him all day, but the curious would stay. Some would even join in, music fill the day. Say mama boo boo da, say mama boo boo da. Do you feel it? Do you yet?
Hey, it's Markley here with Jaysen and Miles.
Yo. Hey.
And about, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, I was on tour with the band Lake, and Ashley in the band, she said, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of Bobby Brown?" I'm like, yeah, I love New Edition. And she's like, no, this is Bobby Brown before that. I'm like, what? She's like, oh, here, check it out. And she had a tape that a friend had made for her. And I did not expect for Bobby Brown to sound like this. Bobby Frank Brown, as he is currently known, probably just so there's not as much confusion, he is a one-man band. So I've got his second album right over here called Bobby Brown Live.
See, low, 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 boy. He's not lonely no more. He's learning to fly. He's not really just close my eyes. Get into a melody, sail on the sea. Come, my brother.
He describes his instrument on the back here. Originally composed of about 50 instruments, it contained 300 strings and took 3 hours to set up and tune. Instruments varied from a tiny electrified string to a monstrous 15-foot electrified drone.
Whoa.
Some were of original invention, while others were electrified versions of instruments found around the world.
Say an electrified drum?
Electrified drone.
Oh.
I don't even know what that means.
Maybe like
A
one.
15-foot electrified drone.
Maybe like one string or
A
something?
theremin or something?
Could be.
A giant theremin?
Anyway, it goes on to say later, this album was recorded one-man band style, hands and feet a-going. And then he talks about having opened for Fleetwood Mac and recording that show and wanting to use that for the live album originally, but the tapes didn't come out the way he hoped, so he just recorded it on the beach in front of his van with his dog there, and that's Bobby Brown live. And I was pretty curious when I first heard that, and then I randomly found the live album one day here in town at Rainy Day Records. It's like pretty beat up copy, and it's got like a dish warp, which is like, it plays like a little scratchy sound throughout the whole album. Then, so that's his live album, and then recently, in the last year, his third album, which is from the early '80s, called Prayers of a One-Man Band, that got reissued by Del Rio Tapes and Records, and he's got this just amazing sound on here, and I'm gonna play a little bit of that for you guys. This song is called Hawaii Nay, I'll Miss You.
Oh, sweet Hawaii name, I'm gonna miss you.
Going on there for one guy to be doing.
Yeah.
All at the same time, then. No overdubs.
I'm not sure if there's overdubs on there or not. It kind of sounds like there must be, with all the layered vocals
Also,
and
like,
everything.
multiple voices.
Yeah, but the live album, he does a lot of these same songs, and they sound just a little bit thinner, but also like really rich because they're, I don't know, because it's just a recording of it happening. I really like all the little kind of jaunty, poppy keyboards in there, but it's like so otherworldly.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that dream, with the angels of Mauna Kea, who look down upon the sea.
It's got like the voice of like a lounge singer almost.
Of a lounge singer?
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
it reminds me of like Tom Jones almost.
Yeah, totally. Like it's very like a celestial lounge singer.
But then he comes in with like those high notes, like right there. Yeah. He's got quite the range.
Yeah, allegedly 6 octaves.
What?
I don't know if he's still hung on to those, but I've been curious about this guy and like just kind of looking him up every once in a while since I first heard him like a decade ago. And then, like I said, I stumbled across the live one, and then I just would do a little Google search every once in a while, every few years or something, and happened to catch this album come out just a little bit before I started working on this show. So like he was on the top of my list for people I wanted to.
But it's from 1983.
This one, it says 1982. So this is the most recent release that I know of. I know he self-released his albums originally and just like toured around, like just driving around in his van or traveling around the world playing music in the streets and selling his albums, like, you know, in person. So like the live album I have is autographed. I'm guessing he probably signed every copy that got printed. But I wrote to Del Rio Records and Tapes, and it took a few months, but he's put me in touch with Bobby, and we're gonna give him a call. And I have no idea what's about to happen, but I have a feeling it's not going to be boring.
Yeah.
So that said, we'll hear a little bit more Bobby Brown here, and then we're going to give him a call.
Tell me, yeah, tell you if I'm gonna go. Little, yeah, feel lonely road. Well, forget me, being, yeah, being whole. Taking my view of heaven away, you say, feel joy and feel child will forget what I know. The reason you give creation needs a hand. Well, I don't really know want to go, but I remember you who I am. You say,
Hello?
Hello? Is this
Yeah.
the Bobby Brown?
Yes.
Bobby Frank Brown?
Yes.
Well, we're happy to talk to you. This is Mark Lee, and I'm here with Jaysen and Miles.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Bobby?
Good. Did you read those things I sent you, the full thing?
Yeah, totally.
Sure did. And we just read over the liner notes on the live album as well to get sort of a understanding of your one-man band setup that you were using back then.
I've rebuilt 7 times. I'm trying to put up 7 albums, and there's kind of a correspondence to each album. So there's a whole bunch of inventions over the years.
Are you still taking it out and performing places?
Well, the last thing I did, the only time I didn't go to a country and set up and play in the street and meet people and stay with them and stay as long as I want, you know, total freedom. Money was really great, and I could do whatever I want. It was so good, I just stayed away from going back to what I had in L.A. started with Warner Brothers and stuff. But to answer the question, let's see, it's been about a year and a half. Well, it's been close to 2 years. I went over to Denmark in a regular tour, and that was the last time I really played. They had some festivals, and you know, they put me in hotels and the whole thing. You know, cars pick you up and take you, and that was the last time. That was in Denmark and Brussels, and then on my own, the last place I played was, I went over to Scotland because I hadn't been there.
Oh, wow. How was Scotland for you?
You know, after Denmark, Scotland was kind of gloomy looking. Denmark is painted orange. All the, you know, not only, they have a lot of beautiful girls in Denmark all over the place, but I mean, I like Irish, you know, and Scottish girls too. But it was, Glasgow is kind of gray, and you have to walk. They should have won some of their wars. Mel Gibson had noted they had to be in shape to walk up to the castle. Man, they had to walk a long ways. You know, the Braveheart. You saw that movie, you know.
Sure.
I'm just throwing that the way it's built, Glasgow, you go up to the castle and you really got to walk a lot of stairs and a lot. Have you been there?
I have never been to Scotland, no.
But, Denmark, you fly in and there's everywhere all these windmills in the sea.
Yeah.
And then you see all bicycles.
I have been to Denmark, and yeah, lots of windmills and even more bicycles.
But then I got into the place and they were all smoking. That was truly a little setback. Yeah, I mean, I was going outside to get fresh air and stuff and coming back in. And most of the thing of traveling, you realize the conformity of cultures that they lock onto. I don't really like rap music. I used to love soul. I was very involved in being an athlete and stuff with a lot of blacks and stuff. And I started boxing in junior high and through high school, my friends, and then the track later on. But I don't like rap music. And I had a guy the other day said, "You're insulting my culture." It's so like. He said, "What don't you like?" And I said, "Do you have an hour?" But anyway, it's kind of a conformity factor of smoking, I guess, ties into what I'm saying, that we have a huge conformity factor here on drugs and the people. Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I bet if people listened to rap 20 years ago and had to write an expose about what it is and how they related to it, they'd probably say that would be music that you might play to torture somebody. Eminem's latest song was so fast and no melody. And by the way, I think it's very easy to do that type of music, and it knocks out all the great singers, black and white.
Oh, okay, I don't know about that. There's some real complex rhyme schemes with some rappers, Bobby.
Some real complex what?
Rhyme schemes, like their rhyme structure in their songs is very complex.
Oh, yeah, rhyming.
And melody. I don't know.
Rhyming.
Yeah.
Oh, melody. I think that, most of the melodies that are good they kind of they sample them kind of from the past melody. A lot of them. Well, I'm sure there's always exceptions.
Yeah, but isn't that part of a great folk tradition? Didn't traditional songs do that all the time too?
Now extrapolate a bit more.
Well, Bobby, I wanted to take it back to the beginning of your like when you first made the Enlightening Beam of Axonda, and how you got from there, or how you got to that place. That it's kind of a mind-blowing, strong first album that just kind of out of the blue, something so ethereal and otherworldly.
It's loaded with prophecy in physics that is coming true now. I worked on the doctorate there for a while. In fact, I was throwing the javelin at San Jose State, and I used up my eligibility, and I stayed there and got the master's credential.
You said you were throwing a javelin?
Yeah, I was fifth in the nation in the when I was in college at Eugene. I threw only 229, placed me fifth. But a few years later, about 3.5 years later, I equaled the winning mark 271 in a practice throw. That was, when I started out, that wasn't exactly what I was shooting for. I mean, I didn't know I was going for the world record or whatever, who knows. But anyway, when I hit that, I quit the next day. But getting back to, I was training for the Olympics, and I went down to UCLA, and I had these two earrings, and partly I was protesting. I was very involved in the black culture, right? In fact, Tommy Smith, you remember him that raised his hand at Mexico City the Black Power salute in the Olympics. But you hear about Kaepernick, right?
Sure.
You know him. His book. Okay, well, they always go back to Tommy. That was the original. And those were my teammates. Harry Edwards, he was the race coach for the 49ers, and then he went on to Berkeley. He instigated much of it. At the Olympics, 68 Olympics, another teammate of mine was Lee Evans. He set a world record in the quarter. Anyway, when they got on the podium, they wore berets. So it was just Tommy and I having a dinner together in the village. I don't want to mislead you. They take the top three. When I placed fifth in NC2A, there's more to the story, but they take the top three. But I went down there, and we thought he was just going to wear a beret or a armband around it. The reason I'm saying this is I was very involved. When I have the street cred to say I don't like rap music, and from all the boxing and all the stuff I did. Muhammad Ali's coach was Julian Menendez. He was at San Jose State, and we were national boxing champions. I boxed Lester Bluns. He wanted me to box up at against the Nevada guys. It's a long story that one of his boxers killed a guy, and they banned NC2A, so it's going to be just intramurals. Anyway, to tie this up, here I am at UCLA, and I mean, I'm kind of pointing out one of the ways I traveled around 81 countries. I had I slip out in places, and even as an old guy, I'm supposed to be old, but I'll jump into protect somebody if I had that chutzpah to do it and travel the way I did. But anyway, here I am at UCLA working on the doctorate. I'm out there. I had these earrings protesting the treatment and the Vietnam War, and they took a vote in the 60s there, or 67, and they took a vote and they voted me off. I couldn't train there, so I went up to Santa Barbara, and that's where I started building the instruments. I was teaching school and living in a school bus, and that's where you hear about Bruce Jenner. I used to counsel him on how to get down to LA and make it. My best friend was Russ Hodge, and he was the world record in the whole holder in the decathlon, but Bill Toomey won the gold medal. Russ was probably the best athlete that ever lived. A lot of people would have attested to that. But anyway, he messed up, he got hurt and stuff. But anyway, all the athletes from around the world came there to Santa Barbara, and living in the school bus and at the University of Isla Vista there, just a great experience, girls, beautiful girls on the beach. And it was a great life. And I was building my instruments. Well, I met John Loisel, and he knew how to make pickups. He had made some instruments, and he had made this 2-foot, about 1.5 foot drone with a lot of strings on it. He made a very heavy sitar, and he made really huge drums. Well, it started me off. I was helping some guys build dulcimers there. I really liked dulcimers. And to have an electric pickup of any size, you could alter your instruments. And so I made this drone about around 7 feet long that you hear in Axonda a lot, then you hear it's okay, well, that went on.
So it's just some really long strings in a box?
Well, it's not a box. It's a very... Well, what I did was mine was made out of wood. John wanted to make everything heavy because it resonated longer.
Yeah. My
idea was to make it compact as possible, and every time I've rebuilt the 7 over the years, it's gotten smaller. But anyway, the drone... John then I came over one night and he says, I want you to see something. Well, it was just like really big, like 12 foot, really heavy metal piece of, it was like an iron thing to pick it up. It was very heavy, actually, But anyway, that drone he played it for Grateful Dead. He used a thing off my dad's. My dad had Reno Truck Service and took it out in the middle of nowhere and built truck. And anyway, he's a very good inventor himself for Cummings and a few things. And anyway, he's out, a real pioneer guy out in the middle of nowhere doing that. But off his truck, I got this thing to play. It's like a big bar, and John made this great music on it. He even gave a few concerts around Santa Barbara, and it was very spiritual, very ethereal. Well, it came first from his 1.5 footer. It inspired so I like to give him the credit, though. Even mine was a big bass. Well, I kept trying to get him to do a one-man show where he would play these huge drums, these rainmakers. They were huge. It'd take 3 people to reach around one of them, probably. Well, at least 2. Anyway, this drone, John built the sound system with Jeff Cook for the Grateful Dead. Now, Mickey Hart saw that, John playing it, and he plays it now and then. And in his book, I was hoping he'd give John credit, but he didn't do it. But anyway, that went on. I went over to the house in Davis, and people said they invented an instrument. Well, there it was, the drone. But it's been in Star Wars and a lot of things. But I rather than take the credit, because I wanted John to have this big bassy thing that he could play his drums and then reach over and play a couple of drones, with mallets and keep the whole thing going and put it through an echo is what I kind of had in mind. But anyway, that's the story of the drone. It was just, but also I made the first portable synthesizer because a guy named Mike Woods was there in Santa Barbara. John had worked at a Radio Shack, and he was really good with electronics. So Mike Woods made him a little oscillating. It was a very small one. Well, I made mine bigger. That was the voice of Axonda, and I ran it through a wah-wah pedal. But I guess you could say it was the first portable synthesizer. I mean, it came out before Moog's thing did.
Wow.
Moog came out in 71, and I had mine in, 69 or something. Anyway, but there was a whole bunch of inventions. At UCLA, when I worked on the doctorate, I'd go down in the ethnomusicology building, and it was just so great, all these instruments all over the place. Well, one guy, nobody knew who did it, made a square drum, and it had the ability to be tuned with little wedges inside. It was like a framework inside of a square. You put the skin on, and you're able to put pressure up from this inside smaller square, pushing up on the skin. So I made 7 of those of varying sizes, and I went to Barkus Berry and put pickups in them. So they were the first electroacoustic drums. I don't know what you say exactly.
That sounds about
Even
right.
that,
Yeah.
Yeah, even that is iffy because Barkus Berry had made some other people probably put on their kick drum one of Barkus Berry's things by then, who knows. But anyway, and I'd go to the NOM convention they had down in L.A., and some of the inventions I had were showing up there gradually over the years, But anyway, I could tell you about those first instruments and all that. The thing about it was, I sang in a church in Santa Barbara, and a guy named Ed Haas came up to me and said, "Is there anything you could do?" He was an engineering student, this great kid, He actually died about a year after this on a sailing accident, and I sang at his funeral. So I retired a motherless child that I sang on. Anyway, he came up. So he built me, he asked me what I'd like it to do. I bought a $350 tape recorder, so I had this great echo that I could take out, but it was a loop pedal. So I was the first person, I think, that had a loop pedal. But I made a decision, and that's really everywhere you go now, people are playing with loop pedals.
Sure.
Ed Sheeran, it's a very common thing. And I'd like Ed Haas to get the credit. He died, and it was a brilliant thing what he did. I had more options even than some of the loop pedals today that are digital. He gave me a sound-on-sound thing that we ran it to echo. Well, I could do a lot of things with it anyway. But
the things that are handmade, you can finesse a little better, I think, is what it comes down to. It can become its own instrument rather than just a machine built to do something, to do one thing. You can make it do whatever you want.
Well, the evolution, what I'd like to get credit for, and it's never been really analyzed, is the evolution of what solo performers do, because I pioneered all this electronics. And when I opened the Fleetwood Mac in Santa Barbara and I turned on my electronics, the bass sound, everybody went, whoa, I had an ethereal intro. But anyway, that was the beginning of these big bass sounds in rap music too, I feel, and which is a dilemma for me, because I didn't want to go out and have people mistake me for that vibe necessarily, because the way I used it was a very spiritual thing. I'm in my motor. I'm peeing in the pee jar. I hope you can't hear us. Anyway, there we go. A little noise there for you to go along with the pee jar. Anyway, you always music coming out of this motorhome. Anyway, I have a house.
Speaking of voices, Bobby, your albums make references to something about 300 comedic voices and a series of 7 albums. And am I correct that 3 of these albums have become available, or is there more out there that you've sold to people?
I had 3, and then I had 4. I put one on a cassette. I was going around Eastern Europe, and I kind of missed out on this whole CD thing, and so I was just making up some cassettes and practically giving them away for some of the Eastern countries I went to, Eastern Europe countries.
My friend Mike told me to ask him why he found an 8-track of Bobby Brown live in Granite City, Illinois.
Yeah, I did that just very briefly. They didn't want me. I would go to flea markets. I guess you could say the first successful indie label manifested itself in flea markets. There was another guy in the LA area that he was from down in the Caribbean, and he had some guys that played steel drums, a bunch of kids. He go around, and they were real good on these, and they'd set up, and so we were in competition. We were the only people you'd see out like that had an album. Jim Doyle at Rainbow Records told me that this was the first, him and I were the first people doing, I guess essentially, he didn't use the word indie label, but my girlfriend Carol Klein, I gave her a harp, and you want to look up her story too, Carol Klein, because she went out on Drag City Records.
Wow.
There's a lot of story there about Carol.
A harp player?
Yeah. Well, her daughter does all the finance stuff for the big tour. She's Beyonce's accountant and all these Sam Smith and all these. And anyway, her daughter's a pretty amazing young gal, boy. Anyway, and her sister, her IQ was in the mid 170s. So Carol gave her the harp, and there's a good story about her, and she sings really beautifully, and her ability to play the harp was really amazing, because she was good on the piano, and she kind of put that onto it, where my harp playing was totally search and pluck and figure it out, over the years. But anyway, she has a really good story there. Our story together is really good. People said we should make a film of that, because and she ended up touring with Greg Allman when he went on a solo tour. He was sitting on my bed one time. Greg didn't get to know him very well, but anyway. So Carol, that's that story. She was, well, let me say this, that she helped me make my pickups, and I wrote on the album that Axonda is because of Carol. Well, she was helping support it, and when I was making the instruments and doing stuff, she was going out and playing her harp, but what I was tying this all to, that her, Carl Knight's, kids and myself were probably the first indie labels that Bud Sorkin was the guy at the LA, he was I think the president of the music, whatever you call it, whatever. Anyway, he said that his favorite albums were mine and Carol's. Well, there's another guy that put out an album. He kind of took the ideas I had in my show and helped me set up and everything. And finally, well, he bought John's instruments, and he had success there's a story. I know I'm just rambling on you. That's why I wrote those things. See, if you would have just read those, I don't have to brag. And I can just answer humbly, because being humble is I'm really humble. I live on a bike for 12 years. I have my mom's and dad's car just parked.
You've done a lot of hard traveling, right?
Well, I don't even call it hard. I just love to hobo it, and I love, the theme and the music I get a lot of real life jokes from living as a hobo. I identify with that, and I like my angels, they complain about, it's a long story, all the jokes I got about the hobo stuff, but anyway, Drag City offered me a really good thing to pay for. They were going to buy up front several albums, all 4, plus the CDs and the DVDs. But I messed up. I had spiritual feelings of waiting and waiting and waiting. I wasn't ready. And I did the artwork a little differently than they wanted me to do. But I passed on that. Mm-hmm. And I'm with Light in the Attic. They are very much on my side, and they may not promote me as much as Drag City did. But anyway, Drag City did Carol. The point I'm trying to make now is that I'm not like somebody in the past, and that's what I'm thinking of the future in my stuff. I'm really thinking that my singing is better now than it ever was, and the songs are better. And the concept, I'll kind of clarify these 7 albums. There was 3, there was one on a cassette, cassette in Eastern Europe or something. I have 4 now. But I'm going to I just decided today, I've been going back and forth. It's not very interesting, but let me limit it down. The 3, 5, 6, and 7, or 4, 5, 6, and 7 are going to be like a radio show in space, and we're trying to get Axonda built, and I have help with angels, and it's a comedy, and I have a lot of hope of, Harry Potter, look out, no, I'm serious, I'm going to write books, you know what I mean? I'm not done here, hopefully, God willing.
I really, I'm really intrigued by your live album. My favorite one on there is "The Waterfall of Love."
never seems to close. Sitting here and calling, heaven call me, you know. Here I already know, surely I can go. Down, down, tumble to the sea. Down, down, bring you to me. Somebody in heaven, somebody in love, somebody all the day I forgot.
Just that album in general, that was, did you just record that on the beach? I know you were trying to recreate the Fleetwood Mac show that you opened.
Actually, what I did was, when I opened for Fleetwood Mac, like Chuck Plotkin, I had Chuck Plotkin does all the Springsteen. He did Dylan and Bette Midler and all kinds of Harry Chapin, all kinds of people. Was put in charge of Elektra. Well, he was my manager, but John Hartman. John Hartman's brother was Phil Hartman, the guy that got Saturday Night Live.
I love Phil Hartman.
Even here in the mainland, as I make the song up now, feel you calling, calling me high. Down from the mountain, tumble to the sea. Down from the mountain, bring you to me. Somebody in heaven, somebody in love, somebody in the world.
I could have asked him to get me on, tell Warren Michaels to go get me on, but I was traveling. I should have really followed that through, But anyway, I could have ended up going on either Elektra or John had just placed America over at Warner Brothers. John had eventually Crosby, Stills and Nash and Ringo through another group. And John had a lot to do with several acts, and so I had these two great managers. I had on the liner notes you see Mike North. Mike North was Carol's. Carol lived above a garage, and Mike North, who was the main guy, him and Dan Weiner, as far as agents, and that quote on there that what he told me was, I've seen all the superstars, at least heard them, and I have the most talent he ever saw. Well, he was going to put me on tour once I got the record deal. I mentioned Wolfman Jack. I used to go around winning dance contests. I know it sounds like bragging, but it's true. But anyway, Wolfman Jack would have helped promote me because he was the head. He really liked me, my dancing and, all this stuff, and he was a really nice guy. But I had all this thing going in L.A., to all this momentum. All I had to do was agree with a couple changes John Hartman wanted to do. And Chuck, when he took over Electra Silent, he couldn't manage me, so he wanted me to go with Norman. And I was kind of in the process of all that. But what I did was, though, I took all those instruments, and I went up and rebuilt them all. So here's the point I was getting to. The live album, you asked how did I record it? Well, I totally rebuilt everything, and it was a lot smaller. I had a 4-track tape recorder, and I had a plug-in and stuff at somebody's house. And so I recorded that in my van.
Well, I think it's beautiful that you recorded it in the van, because it sounds very intimate, and you sound very uninhibited, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like just so much heart comes across in that, and that's I think the biggest thing I've ever taken away from your music is that it's got a lot of heart, and you're unhinged as an artist, and it really shines. And I really look forward to hearing more in the future. The rest of the albums, the films. I think someone should make a movie of your life. Honestly, that would be really something.
I would love that, because I take pictures all the time, and I even back to Canada and slides, and going back to a lot of my travels and everything. And I have this thing about making books with pictures. I'm kind of gearing it to include children. I mean, I'm dipping down. It's very clean, no bad words, and but you really hit a thing on the head there. And it ties in with honesty too. I don't know, but you sing from the heart. It's a very, the ethereal things. I was gonna eventually point out when I had that ability to do the overdubs and live with that loop thing. I didn't do it. I decided I was running down the hill at 6 in the morning in Laguna Beach with Carol there, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to use the pedal. I'm going to slow everything down and just do what I can do with these instruments, going from one to the other.
Yeah.
Now, here's the big thing. If I would have, that made it very from the heart, slow and very spiritual, more, super powerful, and I played to get Leary out of jail. Allen Ginsberg played, Carol and Tony Sauvage played a little thing, and he helped her on the violin, and she played harp and sang, and Allen Ginsberg did his thing, and what he told the audience was, what you have just seen is by far the most talented and advanced of a new type of music that's beginning to emerge. Well, that was the beginning of New Age, I think. It was an Eagle Auditorium to get Leary out of Lompoc jail. Johnny Rivers came and sent his gal to my house. I didn't know. I said I wanted to produce myself, so I passed on it. I didn't know he broke the fifth dimensions on his Soul City Records.
Yeah.
Up and away. And I didn't know. I should have went. That would have been a great thing to go with Johnny. And if you're listening or whatever, I really want to sit and talk to you somebody. That would have been so good.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
very different direction, I imagine.
Yeah. What the thing was is that was very ethereal and very spiritual. And Allen Ginsberg really felt that too. I was gonna throw something in about him, but anyway, the live album and what I took around I never made any money with the big setup. I only performed it here and there. The Troubadour, about the Troubadour in L.A.
Yeah, it's a classic venue there. It's
where everybody comes. Doug Weston. One of the quotes is Doug Weston. He was really a friend of mine, saying that he didn't know if it would catch on. It was really different. But when I said, it was probably the best response you ever had at the Hoot, and everybody that ever comes to LA plays the Hoot to try to get a record deal. And he said yes to that. But I had really great responses there. Kenny Loggins was in the audience. That when I got his quote, I hung out with him after. And he said, he said it was the most incredible thing he ever saw. It was like a giant wave slowly building and breaking on him. And Schiffman and Larson, I almost went with them as managers. It was very funny tying the story back. I know I was babbling about all this stuff, but Larry Larson was a Phi Sig, and I didn't want to join a fraternity, but I played quarterback for him, and we were undefeated and all this stuff, and it was great. Phi Sig, so I had this connection with Larry Larson to go with them, but I ended up going with John Hartman and Chuck. But anyway, I know I'm rambling on, but this connects. Here's the connection it makes. That when I switched to making money and going to flea markets and playing and a little bit of fairs, and then it went to Hawaii and did that, and loved that and everything. Then it went to going to all these countries around the world. One thing I should point out, you're not going to be known that way. In Australia, I had incredible responses. I could have stayed there and been really famous really quick. It was incredible what happened. But then I would just take off and go over to New Zealand and go. And so all that time, but I guess the key thing I was going to say, that set of instruments on the live was more of it was from the heart and everything, and it really is, but it had, I was pioneering some of the beats and stuff, that people use now.
Very much.
So it had more, it's not that using beats takes away from the heart, but the ethereal Axonda was a very spiritual, you could cut it with a knife. That was very spiritual. Well, I don't want to lose that in this comedic thing, so I've got to learn. I want to make a rock opera of albums. I say it this way, 4, 5, 6, and 7, because I decided to use some of the full songs from 4. Like I say, that's not very interesting, but I'll shut up and ask me another question.
Well, I've got to go put my kids to bed in a minute here, and I was wondering if we could sum up what do you want on your tombstone?
A key to heaven. That's just an original answer, I hope.
Yeah, that's
just thought of it.
That's beautiful. Would you mind singing us a few bars again before we part ways?
I don't know, is that distorted?
Oh, that sounds great.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
I've added lows. I've got a lot of lows, and I've even taken my highs further. It's really not always do you get these harmonic sounds, but it seemed like it jumped up another bunch there.
Yeah.
You want me to sing more? I like to, hey Joe, like use soft voices and, the fire. I like to, my voice is like, well, holy cow, we have to try to go down and see what's going on.
Yeah, well.
It all, it's all musical, I said, do we have a bench there? We don't have nothing. Well, they gotta live like hobos like me. That's where the comedy comes in. And they're trying to get, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Is that good enough?
That's terrific, Bobby. Thank you so much for your time. You're a man of many talents, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be seeking you out, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
Go to cdbaby.com